Nailing is probably the oldest and most commonly used method of fitting a hardwood floor. It is, however, very important to use the correct type of nail and nail gun for the application. The rubber mallet supplied can also be used for tapping the boards together. Before fitting commences, then building paper is used to cover the entire area of the subfloor. This is rolled out, joints overlap slightly, and then held into place with small tacks. Areas such as doorways and stair tops should be taken into consideration before starting. Here we see a door plate being tapped into position. The groove is facing outwards and will accommodate the tongue on the ends of the boards. Setting out a datum is also very important. Please try and bear in mind any focal points in the room, such as a stair top or a fireplace. Once the datum has been established, this can be measured back from and the first few rows of boards set out. These can then be face nailed into position. A nail gun can be used to do this, or they can be done by hand and knocked below the surface of the wood with a punch. Once the first few rows have been face nailed, you can then start to secret nail. The angle of the nail can be adjusted using different bases on the nail gun. Here the fitter is nailing at a shallower angle to allow a longer nail to be used without protruding through the bottom of the subfloor. Make sure all the nails are driven fully home. This next operation is without a doubt the most difficult part of fitting a hardwood floor. It requires careful marking, measuring and cutting. Door casings and architraves should always be undercut, so that the floor will slide neatly underneath them, allowing some room for expansion. In the installation being shown, we are sliding the flooring underneath the skirting boards. On some installations, however, you may be leaving an expansion gap next to the existing skirting boards and then covering it with a bead. At the end of each run, a board will need to be marked and then cut, allowing of course for the expansion gap. It is best to do a large area all at once. This is known in the trade as racking out. Please be aware of butt joints and make sure that they are all well staggered with no repeating patterns. At the end of a run, you will no longer be able to use the angled nail gun. Here, the fitter is using special self-countersinking screws to get the last few rows into position. A pilot hole will probably need to be drilled before the screw is inserted. This is a good method of fitting a floor onto a poor substrate, or if a nail gun is not available. The last few boards, however, will still need to be face nailed. This is the tricky part. Finally, the last boards can be measured, cut down their length and put into position. Because we are sliding underneath the skirting boards, the fitter has had to slide it under and then pull it back into position before finally face nailing. When fitting up to existing skirting boards, an expansion gap of approximately 13 mm should be left, depending on the span of the floor. This can then be covered with a matching beading. These should always be fixed to the skirting board and not to the floor. This is to allow free movement. Here we see a very neat flat section being fitted, which consists of a packing piece that is first screwed to the subfloor and then the flat section nailed over it. The nails are tapped into place, sunk below the surface and then filled.